we have a lot of room to run. The bull market has legs, and I think we can go probably anywhere up to 500,000 to a million in the next 12 months, because this is also a delayed market movement too. It has to do with all the adoption happening in the world today. You have countries adopting Bitcoin. You have the ETFs, which are just taking in a massive amount of capital and eliminate the bottleneck for moving capital into Bitcoin from the legacy markets. There is no more barrier.
With this rising adoption, Bitcoin could climb anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million over the next 12 months. That's the latest outlook from Samson Mouw, CEO of Jan3. Right now, Bitcoin ETFs are absorbing hundreds of thousands of coins, and sovereign strategies like El Salvador's Bitcoin bonds are being adopted by more governments. The available supply is being drained faster than ever. At the same time, global liquidity is starting to surge again, and Bitcoin stands alone as the only asset with a fixed supply, open access, and no central issuer. Samson Mouw believes this is the beginning of a global monetary reset. As more capital flows out of inflation-prone fiat and into hard assets, Bitcoin becomes the natural endpoint. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video, as Samson Mouw lays out exactly why this cycle is different, and how Bitcoin could redefine global finance in the months ahead.
Well, if you break down the inflation rate, the real inflation rate, and you peg it to something real like eggs, you get 11% annually. So if you apply that to the previous all-time high in 2021, that takes us to somewhere around 101K. So, that's kind of the floor. That's just keeping up with inflation. That's Bitcoin just keeping up with inflation. So 120K, 130K, that means you're beating inflation by 20% over a 4-year period, or 30% over a 4-year period, which is not really spectacular. So I think we have a lot of room to run. The bull market has legs, and I think we can go probably anywhere up to 500,000 to a million in the next 12 months, because this is also a delayed market movement too. If you think about it, we should have ran already. We should already have been at 200,000 a coin, and we're still at 120. Well, it has to do with all the adoption happening in the world today. You have countries adopting Bitcoin. You have the ETFs, which are just taking in a massive amount of capital and eliminate the bottleneck for moving capital into Bitcoin from the legacy markets. There is no more barrier. And then you have companies like Strategy and now Blockstream that are also moving into the treasury space. And Strategy alone has accumulated 600,000 plus Bitcoin. So, just like doing quick back of the napkin math, it just doesn't seem possible that we are still hovering around, inflation-adjusted Bitcoin all-time highs from 4 years ago at 100 to 120,000. We should be well over 200,000, just by my approximate estimate. Well, I think this has a lot less to do with Bitcoin than just the markets in general for the US. So the Genius Act, it adds clarity, but I don't think it changes fundamentally anything about Bitcoin. It gives a better structure and guidance on stablecoin issuers, and that is good for stablecoin issuers. But even without that, I see stablecoins continuing to grow. This is just the US government becoming more comfortable with the idea of stablecoins, and the fact that stablecoins like Tether are just taking up a massive amount of treasury buys and holdings equivalent to countries. I think Tether is ranked somewhere in the top 20 now of all holders of US T-bills. The fact is Bitcoin and stablecoins are now integrated into the US economy permanently and in a very deep way. I think what is interesting for Bitcoin is, one, the audit of Fort Knox, as we've been promised, and two, passing of the Bitcoin Act from Cynthia Lummis that would allow the US to actively accumulate Bitcoin. Now, there's a bit of other interesting news that came out today, which was a reporter filed some Freedom of Information requests and found that the U.S. Marshals only have about 28,000 Bitcoin now, I believe. And that's a lot less than was expected. So I think these bills currently in motion or on the table are missing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that the US needs to accumulate Bitcoin very, very rapidly if it wants to have a significant Bitcoin reserve treasury. So the window is closing, and I'm not sure they really realize that yet now, because if they did, they would be talking about the Bitcoin Act, not these other bills. It's kind of depressing to see alts run because that usually brings us back down as a whole. So Bitcoin rises, and then the people that are investing in altcoins make some money, and then they pump their coins, right? So it's always a cycle. Bitcoin goes up, it leads the pack, and then you see alts run a bit. And then things come back down, and all the investors in altcoins get liquidated, or they blow up somehow, or something happens, and then Bitcoin comes down along with it a little bit, and then we go back up. But the cycle rinses and repeats over and over and over. I don't really worry too much about the alts because they're all very small cap coins, and compared to Bitcoin, it doesn't really matter. They can easily manipulate the floats and move their prices, and they can drive their prices through direct announcements like Ripple trying to do business, right? Like, what is Ripple? It's a company now, but it has a crypto coin. But in real world, that should technically be a stock or a security. But here we are. But I'm not really worried about that. I think in the long run, Bitcoin dominance will continue to increase. And I think this might be the final alt season, if there is one. But it doesn't look very promising.
While much of the market is distracted by altcoins, Mouw remains focused on the global monetary transformation underway. In many parts of the world, Bitcoin is being integrated into national strategies, permanent reserves, and global capital flows in ways that altcoins simply are not. The approval of stablecoin regulation under the Genius Act may bring clarity to crypto in general, but it still doesn't change Bitcoin's remarkable and long-term impact. Mouw believes the US might be missing the bigger picture, and if it doesn't start accumulating Bitcoin soon, it will be left behind in the next monetary order.
Some analysts are saying that the next crypto bear market will be triggered by some of these companies going belly up and essentially create a ripple effect similar to the ones we saw in previous crashes, like in 2022 with other major players in the industry. Do you see such a risk as a possibility?
It's definitely a concern, especially with altcoin treasury companies. I don't see it ending well for any company that is taking Ethereum or Solana or anything as a reserve asset. I think those will end up very badly in the long run. And I don't know if that will have a cascading impact on Bitcoin. I see if there is a big run up and a drawdown, like similar to previous cycles, that some of the Bitcoin treasury companies, the smaller ones, might fold, especially if their CEOs don't understand what it is that they're holding. I see it less as a risk with MicroStrategy, or Strategy rather, because Saylor has proved himself through one of the biggest bear markets that we've had in recent years, and he's held and he's kept on accumulating. The newer entrants, it's unsure whether they have the fortitude to survive a drawdown. I think many of them are just copying, trying to fast follow strategy, and that's definitely a red flag in my view. So I would say the bigger ones, or at least companies like Blockstream, helmed by Adam Back, are less risky because Adam understands Bitcoin to the fullest extent possible. And that means it's a safer investment. But smaller ones, I would definitely say no. And definitely altcoin treasury companies, I wouldn't touch those with a 100-foot pole. The biggest challenge for most governments and nation-state adoption in general is just red tape. It takes a lot of effort to get something done. And not every country has a central leader that can just pass a law. There's a lot of deliberation, discussion. And you see this again in the US, right? Like, it's a very chaotic, fragmented procedure to get anything passed. And this is the biggest barrier, I think, to nation state adoption. We've tried a lot at Jan3 to try to follow the top-down approach and engage the governments to educate them and see if they will pass some laws. But we've shifted our strategy a bit since then to take smaller projects like sandbox projects, or creating special economic zones, or rolling out some prototype test projects, if you will. And I think this is probably more pragmatic because that gets them into the Bitcoin game at a much smaller scale, and a scale which they're comfortable with. I think getting a country to make Bitcoin legal tender is much harder and far longer a path to adoption than people expect. Well, you could think that for sure, that all the corporations will get all the Bitcoin, or nation states will get all the Bitcoin. Now, is it actually possible that billions of people around the world get physical Bitcoin that they themselves hold and front run the massive financial industrial complex? I'm really not sure, because the biggest barrier to people adopting Bitcoin is themselves and not understanding Bitcoin. And I think price is definitely a factor that makes people want to have Bitcoin. So people want Bitcoin at 0.12 million or 0.2 million or 0.5 million, but they don't want Bitcoin when it drops to 0.08 or 0.09. So this is just the way it's been and the way it always will be. People will just get Bitcoin at higher and higher prices, and there will just be less and less Bitcoin available for them because of all these other actors scooping up all available coins. Now, that's not to say we can't do anything about it. And Jan3's other initiative is Aqua, and trying to onboard the next billion people into Bitcoin. So I think there are groups like us that are actively trying to get more people on board.
Bitcoin is being talked about a lot in the mainstream press. Do you expect now a wave of retail investors suddenly waking up to this new rally?
No, I think this is not yet the rally. I think they'll start waking up at 0.2 million or 200,000 a coin. I would say retail is still sleeping on this. And anecdotally, most people I know have said, their friends and family are not reaching out to them yet to ask about Bitcoin. So we're not even close to peak retail awareness or retail mania. But, once you cross that next cognitive threshold of 0.2 M, that's when people think, okay, I'm missing out and I need to get this. And that's when they start piling in.
Last time we talked in November last year, you were predicting that 2025 was going to be the year of $1 million for Bitcoin. Do you still stand by that prediction?
I still do, but it seems like we're not close to it yet. We still need to do like a 8x from here to get 1 million. So maybe 2026. But I don't discount the possibility that we can have a very rapid run up in the next 6 months if all factors line up and you do have retail coming on board.
While retail investors are still asleep, institutions are buying faster than ever. Samson Mouw doesn't think the rally has even started yet. From his view, the real breakout begins once Bitcoin crosses that next psychological threshold, likely $200,000. That's when retail will panic in, thinking they're late, and the real surge begins. Until then, it's institutions and governments quietly accumulating the supply. And by the time most people realize what's happening, they'll be priced out. The question is, will you be one of them? If you want to stay most up to date on the crypto and Bitcoin world, subscribe to my daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a concise resource for the latest expert predictions, breaking news, and top on-chain analysis, trusted by over 90,000 subscribers for insightful crypto investment information. Don't miss out on the opportunity to stay informed in the crypto market. The link is in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it gave you some value. I'll see you all at the next one, and as always, all the best.